Hi everybody, and welcome back to Scientific Method Paranormal. Today, unfortunately, I have some bad news. We're going to be talking about orbs, and specifically how almost every paranormal orb you see is either a bug or a speck of dust. And I'm going to explain why. The truth is that 99% of ghost orbs aren't paranormal at all. And if they're not paranormal, then what are they? Tonight we're talking about what orbs are, why they appear, and how to tell the difference between dust, bugs, insects, IR artifacts, and truly unexplained phenomena. So orbs in the paranormal field are generally described as spirit energy, small balls of light that might come into a shot and zoom around and then suddenly burst through a wall. Or they can even be slow moving blurs across a screen. Pretty much any white light anomaly that appears on a camera, especially if it's an IR camera, can be described as a ghost orb. Unfortunately, most true orbs come from camera physics instead of paranormal activity. The three main causes for orbs are as follows. Number one is dust particles. These dust particles can float very close to an IR camera's lens, causing what appears to be a light anomaly. The reason this occurs is because the dust particles are so close to the lens that the lens can't focus on the object in front of it. And that creates a sort of light ring around the outside of the dust particle, which to the untrained eye can look like a kind of ghostly image. The second most common cause for orbs are bugs. Now, some bugs can reflect IR differently, like off of their wings like a moth, and that will show up similar to an orb. And because the objects are usually pretty close to the camera, because bugs like the light, they also appear more circular than they truly are. And when the IR light hits the wings of a bug just right, you can get a really cool effect. And I will show you that from one of my last investigations. I was convinced that I had caught paranormal activity on camera until I did the research and figured out what it really was. The telltale signs that your orb is a bug are as follows. The first sign is wing flicker, especially when you slow the video down. Another is erratic movements, as many bugs tend to do. And the final giveaway is a change in size as they move towards and away from the camera. The third most common cause are just camera artifacts in general, especially with the night vision security system cameras a lot of people use when they catch these orbs. They are very common to cause these kinds of artifacting. Some examples can be IR bloom, pixel persistence, camera artifacts, the light bouncing between the lens, and I'm sure there are others. All of these causes can create that glowing orb effect as it floats seemingly around the room. Now, these types of orbs can happen on any camera, but they are 10 times more likely to happen on an IR camera, and there's a good reason for this. Security cameras use IR light arrays. IR blasts particles in front of the lens, and the lens tries to see anything within 5 to 10 feet away from it. But if anything is closer than that, it shows up as a massively blurred object, usually in the shape of an orb. Other potential causes for orbs are pet hair, dandruff, fibers of any kind, spider webs, and there are many more. So you've got an orb, and you want to know what it is. Well, you came to the right place. I'm going to show you how to tell the difference between a dust orb and a bug orb, and even a compression artifact or some kind of camera anomaly. So dust orbs move very slowly, and they tend to either drift upwards or downwards depending on the air current. Orbs tend not to change direction suddenly and tend to be semi-transparent. Insects, on the other hand, will do quite the opposite, changing directions frequently and kind of seeming to appear and disappear with the flutter and angle of their wings. Some paranormal investigators claim that the movements of certain orbs seem to have a sort of intelligence to them. And while it can look that way, and it's easy to convince yourself that that's the case, there are some common causes you need to be aware of. Those include, but are not limited to, the air conditioning turning on and off, people opening doors, drafts coming through windows, heat rising up from electronics nearby, camera auto exposure is another potential cause. Nearly all of this intelligent movement can be explained by physics. But hey, why just listen to me talk about it when I can show you this firsthand? The first thing we're going to look at is shaking a pillow in front of an IR camera to see if we can get some dust particles. All right, for this demonstration, we are going to use one of my security cameras from my Night Owl system, and we have a chair here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place the chair directly in front of the camera. I'm going to take a pillow and just hit it into the chair so we can get some dust up in the air, and this night vision camera will help us catch that. All right, ready?
I'm not recording it, right?
No, you don't need to be.
Yeah, so.
You did? You saw some? All right, next we're going to try to recreate the bug wing orb. This one's going to be a bit trickier because I'm not very good at training bugs. All right, that didn't go very well. Fortunately, I have an example from a recent investigation at the Sally House that I'm going to show you that's a perfect example of a bug in action. So a couple bugs come into frame, and then about a minute later, you see this really interesting looking orb. Let's play it again at half speed. Notice how the outside of the orb seems to warp? That's an effect caused by the moth's wings. So if you made it this far in the video, the question you might be asking yourself is, are there any examples where an orb can be something other than bugs, dust, or a camera artifact? And the answer is yes. These are the characteristics of an orb that may be worth taking a second look at. So when an orb has a light source of its own, that's one sign that we need to take a closer look at things. And a way to see if a orb has a light source is you can see if it is casting light onto another object in the room, or seeing maybe a shadow on the wall behind the light source. Another great way to tell if an orb could potentially be something more is if you have an eyewitness. Now, usually you won't, but if you do, an eyewitness who can actually see the orb guarantees that it's not going to be dust, because dust would be too small, and it's most likely not a bug, because those kinds of IR illusions won't be picked up with the naked eye. Now, a more likely way to tell is if you have two cameras that both can capture the location of the orb. If one camera shows the orb and the other does not, most likely this is either a dust particle or a bug that is very close to the camera, and so one camera has a view of it and the other does not. But if both cameras manage to capture the orb, you may have something more interesting. Orbs are not automatically paranormal, and the more we realize that, the better our investigations will become. If you have a orb video you would like to send in and have me look at, feel free to do that. My email is in the channel page. You can find me there and send it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.